Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Crystal and welcome. Oh, I don't have my nails. My nails are off currently. The way it goes into claws. My nails are off currently, so I can't do my little, so just imagine it. My little clack. But welcome. If you're new here, my name is Crystal Lee. I'm the creator of this channel, Crystal Lee's Chance channel, where we talk about almost everything all the time, all at once. 3 times a week, sometimes 4 if I'm incorporating travel. And you have reached us, the community, when we're talking about the price breakdown of my trip to Ireland and Belgium. I'm going to go through all my expenses just to show you how much money I spent on my trip, just in case you need to gauge or you wanted to gauge how much it is to go abroad and not like spend a fuck ton, because essentially at the end of this I think it's still going to be a fuck ton, but it's not as much of a ton as it would be if I didn't try to do it in a budget friendly way. So I'm going to go through all my expenses of the trip and we're going to go step by step. I get distracted easily, so I'm going to try to be as straightforward as I can be with all of this and not go on a tangent, but I have no promises. But if all of that, what I just said, is something that intrigues you, or just like, I want more, more importantly, 3 times a day, because I post Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, then subscribe and join the community. We're always talking about something around here, whether it's feelings or fun. And then if you want to join the community, please subscribe. I want to build this community to a whole bunch of people getting back to living, loving, and laughing. I just want to build a community getting back to the playfulness of life, and that's through talking about feelings and fun. So anyway, let's move on, and let me tell you how much money I spent while I was abroad. I put my mic down, so hopefully it's close enough that you can like still hear me. I should just put it right here, but it messes with the fit, you know what I'm saying? It messes with the fit, you know what I'm saying? You get me? Okay, so when I started doing all of the planning for my trip, I put together a spreadsheet that I like and that I can follow. So it's probably not the best spreadsheet in the world, but it's something that I like and I can follow. So we're going to start from the beginning. From the beginning.
In the beginning.
So the total this entire trip was curated around me going to a concert to my favorite artist. I should start with that. His name is James Arthur. He's a UK artist, and I have been following him since his days on X Factor. He's had a beautiful voice then. He has a beautiful voice now, and I have seen him in Philly, but I want to see him abroad in addition to travel abroad. So that's why I specifically bought a ticket abroad. The most expensive part of this entire thing is getting to a place that you want to go, is getting to the place that the concert was. The concert was in Brussels, Belgium, and it was very expensive to get to Brussels. And so I decided that I'm going to fly into a different country or a different part of the country and then just hop, skip, and jump over to Brussels. And the flights are so much cheaper. Like they're under $100. So I decided to fly into Dublin. Going from Newark International Airport to Brussels, it was probably $700. And so I decided to shop around to figure out what would be the cheapest place to get into than to hop, skip, and jump to Brussels, and that was Dublin. I've been to Dublin once in 2019. It was my first international trip. It was a beautiful trip because one, it was my first, but also Dublin is great. It's a great city, and coming from knowing how to roam around a city, because I was born and spent the first 10 years of my life in New York, so I will say I'm a city girl, but New York is basically a grid system, and luckily for us, Dublin was also kind of a grid system as well. And so for that to be my first international trip back then, it was easy and awesome. So I flew into Dublin this time around, and that ticket totally was $499.70. Now, I will tell you that I did not pay for this ticket straight out. I used a source called Airfordable. That is a resource that you can use to pay for a flight in payments, in partial payments. I learned about it around 2019 when I first was traveling, and I wanted to do it in a very cheap way, or not cheap, somehow, some way, so I'm not coming out of pocket all the time in these big chunks of money. And so I used Airfordable to book my ticket. So the original cost of the ticket was $450. With Airfordable, using that service, it added $50 to the ticket. And you're saying, Crystal, weren't you talking about doing it the cheapest way? That was still the cheapest way. And if I can sacrifice $50 more in order to have a way to pay for a trip in a more staggered way than all up front, I will take it. And I did take it. Totally with the cost of the ticket and using the service of Airfordable, so their service fee, the ticket cost $499.70. They give you the option to pay every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every 4 weeks, I believe, depending on how far your trip is away. And then from that point on, you pay them. If you don't pay them, you don't get your ticket. And I use the service twice now, and I've never had an issue. I've always got my ticket. I've always been able to contact the airline if anything I wanted to add to the ticket after I finished paying for it through Air Affordable, and it's always been fine. Well, one thing I did find trouble with is that my TSA pre-check was not on the ticket because Air Affordable doesn't ask for your TSA pre-check information. So that's a downfall, I guess. Then to go to Brussels, my ticket was $52.44. With this, I will bring up a surprise cost. So the ticket itself was $52.44. I used a airline called Ryanair, and also sorry for for going to Dublin, I used United. For Dublin to Brussels, I use Ryanair, and they have the option of only bringing a personal bag or paying extra to do a carry-on and a personal bag. Their personal bag dimensions are smaller than you think, and it was smaller than I thought as well. I thought they were on some, as long as it's on your back and not on the floor, you'll like get on the plane. But even people with priority tickets with a carry-on and a personal bag, they had to put their bags in this size checker, and if it was even a little bit over, you'd pay a price to upgrade. And the price to upgrade was 75. No, actually, no. I wrote it down. Everyone's shush. I'm about to say $75. It says $75 on the website. They said if you get to boarding and your bag is over, you'll pay $75. What it was where is it? Surprise cost, right? Cool. It was $69.52 to upgrade my ticket's priority to account for my heavy bag. Mind you, someone with literally a big purse had to also pay that. I thought Ryanair was like the Sprint of the Spirit of Europe. Spirit is better than Ryanair. So keep that in mind. So if you're going to use Ryanair, just keep in mind that they were really strict with the sizing. However, coming back, so I wouldn't have to pay $66 or $69. I paid $34 to check my book bag and just hold my laptop and my current book that I was reading in my hand during the flight. They didn't check nary one bag. And so another surprise cost was the $34.27 that I did not account for. And that totaled $103.79 that I didn't account for going abroad, which sucked because it took away a lot of things that I wanted to do. So that sucks, but it is what it is. I like to also blame Mercury retrograde, but I'm just that girly. I'm gonna put this down because I'm tired of holding it. Hopefully you can still hear me. My voice does project. Now, I stayed in Dublin for 2 nights. I stayed in Brussels for 1 night, and I stayed in Dublin again for 1 night just to go home. So I had 4 nights that I stayed in hostels. I decided to use hostels because it is something that I used when I first started traveling, and it was something that I was encouraged to use by other US travelers going abroad. They always said it was very safe and nice, and I use an app called Hostel World that helps you shop around for different hostels and have the amenities that you want. And even though they're called hostels, there's still rooms that if you wanted a private room for you and your partner or you and yourself, they are there for you, but they cost probably like $60 plus. For the hostels that I stayed at, I think the most I spent for 1 night was like $33. You utilize hostels because, one, I'm not afraid to live with someone like a stranger. I think the hostels take precaution in order to keep everyone safe. Within the rooms of hostels, you have a few options. You have a private room with you, your partner, or you and yourself. You have, I don't know, a dorm with 4 people. You have 8, 16, there's even 32. You have options for female-only dorms, male-only dorms. You have options for co-ed dorms. So depending on what you want, the prices go along with it. In Dublin, I stayed at Gardiner House Hostel, and I stayed there for 2 nights, and it totaled $56.50. And what I booked was booking details. First couple of nights in Dublin, I stayed in a standard 4-bed mixed dorm. And so I stayed with girls and guys, or just mixed people. And it was nice. I met someone who reminded me of one of the students at the school that I work at, and she did a tarot reading, and I paid her $8 to do that, or $9 US because it was €8. It's €8 for. And anyway, I paid her to do a tarot reading on me. So that was also a surprise cost, but it was whatever. But as you can see here, the hostel conditions, they tell you what check-in, check-out is. They ask for a valid ID, which is just a passport because that's the most valid ID we got. They check-in times, amenities, whether it's cars, towels, luggage holding. They had a barbecue and a jacuzzi. I didn't want all that, so I didn't read all that. There's house rules and conduct, payment and security deposits, rates and cancellation. Like, so it's a very thorough. It's kind of like a hotel. Overseas, hostels are a form of stay of accommodations for even families. So it was really cool to use that, and it's very budget friendly. So for my first night in Garden Air, for my first 2 nights in Garden Air house hostel, it was $56.50. For Brussels, I stayed in Meninger, Brussels City. Sure, sorry, Brussels City Center, and that booking itself, the total for that was $51.92. This was the most expensive night ever, but the hostel is essentially a hotel. It was essentially a hotel. So and that pissed me off. But it didn't really piss me off. I stayed in a 10-bed mixed dorm. And let me tell y'all, because this is about to be me on my soapbox. It was mixed. It was mostly men, and that's fine. I wasn't uncomfortable with any of them. I wasn't uncomfortable, but a bitch was annoyed. I don't understand how all of them snore. I don't understand how all of them were harmonizing while they were snoring. And at some point, it was a call and answer because one was another one, and one time they just vibed. I was like, what the heck is happening? So please note that if you don't like snoring, you're gonna have to deal with it, get some earplugs, protect yourself by way of annoyances. Again, I felt completely comfortable with the men in my dorm. They don't you some people don't even talk to you. It's just everyone knows they have their bed and they do whatever. Now, with that dorm, also there was a shared bathroom, sink, and shower. So if you don't like that, then also realize that this is not for you as well. I, being someone who lives in a van, felt very comfortable doing that because I get ready at the gym all the time. I'm always in public in my van. So I'm just like, this is just my van, but not a van. It's just a dorm. So in a hostel, you can find the accommodations at a price that is more budget friendly. But if you don't want to do that, that is okay. That is what I did. So in total for my hostels, I paid $142.14 for 4 nights. And then lastly, another thing to buy for this trip was the concert ticket itself to see James Arthur, and it was $65.86, which I will be getting back because unfortunately while I was there, he got sick and had to cancel the show. So I still got to see Brussels and see Ireland, and honestly, a girl can ask for more. I mean, she could have asked for her artist to sing, but that would be more. So it was nice that he canceled and I was abroad and not canceled when I had to like make it to the city or something. I don't know. So it's also really, it was cool to think that maybe the concert was pretty much a reason for me to travel abroad. And even though it didn't happen, I still got to, because I was still afraid. There's still fear in traveling abroad by yourself and going to new places and doing new things or staying in dorms with people you don't know. There's so much fear there, but doing it anyway feels still fearful, but still good. And I'm really happy that I did it. So although I'm bummed the concert got canceled, I'm okay with it happening while I was abroad. Oh my God. 1 second, I'm adjusting myself. All right. So now we're going to head into each day that I spent something on. Sunday, November 23rd, which was the first day that I went to, was the night that I went to Dublin. I spent $18.30 on a Minternational plan that helps me have service abroad. When you go abroad, you should find out how you're going to contact people when you're there. Some people use WhatsApp and that would be easier, but I like to text people and not everyone had WhatsApp. So I got the Minternational deal from Mint Mobile, and that was a total of $18 because I got a 3-day pass for $10, and then I got a 1-day 24-hour pass or service for one more day. So the 4 days that I was there, and that totaled $18.30. And then while I was at the airport, I got a battery pack to charge my phone because I didn't grab that before. And I got meal. And then I got a meal at the airport. And so my first actual day was $73.24. I sat down and looked at what I want to do each day. So I left on Sunday, November 23rd after work at 10 p.m. and I arrived on Monday, November 24th to Dublin around 10 a.m. And from that point on, I wanted to do a few things because I wasn't supposed to check in until 3 p.m. So what I did was look at the different museums that I wanted to do and the different experiences that I wanted to have. When I was over there before, I went to a whiskey museum and that was nice. So I decided to go to Guinness's Storehouse and the Irish Rock and Roll Museum and Dublin Castle. The Irish Rock and Roll Museum cost $27.08 for a ticket. The The Guinness Storehouse Tour to learn how Guinness is made cost $45.46. And that ticket was only because I wanted a stoutie, which is the ability to take a picture of yourself and put it on your glass of Guinness. I was very touristy with that. So the stoutie ticket itself costs $45.46. But if you're just going for a tour and a free pint at the end of your tour, I believe it's like, I don't know, $15 cheaper. So it all depends on what you would like. And then lastly, the Dublin Castle, when I just went to a castle because I wanted to go to a castle and toured it has some beautiful paintings in there. It was $9.32. So altogether, all the fun things that I did for my first day in Dublin was $81.86. I purchased those tickets before I even went abroad, so it wasn't money that I had to bring with me or budget with me. I did it before, but in general, it was $81.46 for those experiences that I wanted. And they're all very close. I put down transportation, so mostly bus and walking because I wasn't going to do any like Uber or their form of Uber over there, which I don't know what it is or what it's called because I didn't use it. And I'll get to the cost of what the bus fare was over there in a second. And then when it came to food that day, I spent $45.75. I budgeted $50 for food for each day that I was there, and I definitely went over that a lot, but it wasn't my fault. So for the first day in Dublin, I spent $127.61. For my second day, I woke up and I had breakfast at the hostel, which wasn't really like that big of a breakfast, but hostels usually have a free breakfast, and it's like toast, maybe some meat, maybe egg, coffee, hot chocolate, there's tea, there's different spreads, there's eggs, whatever. I just ate something at the hostel, which was like 4 slices of bread and a whole bunch of coffee, and I went about my day. I went to a bunch of bookstores and had a bookish day in Dublin, which was really nice. And I ended the day at the Winding Stair bookshop and restaurant because I wanted to have a nice meal. I genuinely enjoy taking myself out for dinner and having a nice glass of wine or a drink, a nice meal, and just either reading or sitting and relaxing and people watching because I have turned into an older woman at my ripe age of 31, and I love those things. But the dinner I budgeted for was $60. I ended up spending $88.65. And with everything else that I bought that day, the total for the day was $103.37. So I bought one book for $5.72, and everything else was just probably meals or dessert or coffee. So I love food. The third day is when I went to Brussels. And that day I went to their Belgium Royal Natural Science Museum, and it was $15.50 for 15 cents for that ticket, and I bought it before I got over there, so I didn't have to bring that money with me. And that day, I just got like random food everywhere. So in total, with the ticket of the museum and the food that I got, it was $39.86. Nothing too crazy. That day, I was supposed to do more, but that night was also the concert, and it got canceled. So I just had dinner at the hostel, and that was where the $39.86 is coming from. In totality, I spent $55.01 on or in Brussels for the first day. Thursday, November 27th, I roamed around Brussels for a bit in the city center and had a Belgian waffle. I also did an experience called it's a museum of infinite realities where you can go through all these rooms, make all these choices, and at the end it tells you your spirit animal. If you want to know what mine is, please go look at the 48 hours in Brussels. I'm not going to tell you because I'm an influencer. I'm kidding. I just really want you to go watch me figure out what animal I am. So the ticket for that was, I think, $15 because it was on sale. It's usually $21. Let's see, what was it? It was $13.92 for that ticket, but it's normally like 20 something dollars. So I got it on sale. And then I just roamed around Brussels for a little bit and made my way back to the airport to take my plane back to Dublin. Home. And the last day in Dublin, Friday, November 28th, I only spent $10, and that was pretty much on food. So in totality, when it comes to first day that I went, so that Sunday up until Friday coming back was $400.48. Sorry, let's try again. $448.29. And when you're using your card and you're not using cash, your cards will have a foreign exchange adjustment to adjust to the proper price of what you paid for the thing or what the exchange rate is or whatever. And so the foreign exchange rate adjustments that popped up on my bank statement brings our total to $463.49 for the activities and food that I spent abroad. For public transportation that I took in Dublin and Brussels, Dublin was $29.47. When I arrived at at Dublin Airport, I took the Dublin Express bus to the city center, and that was $11.56. Then I bought a Leap card because for the buses in Dublin, you can't tap your phone to pay. You need a card, and it's called a Leap card. You can purchase a Leap card at a market near any bus stop, and I bought it at this small store. The card itself was $5, and I put $5 on the card because I wasn't sure how much each fare was. It was $2, so I should have put $6, but neither here nor there. With taxes, that Leap card cost $12.13, and me adding more to the card was an additional $5.78 because taxes here and there. So in total, the public transportation that I paid for Dublin was $29.47. When I was in Brussels, the total of the fare that I paid for was $32.47. I paid $10.43 for a 24-hour bus pass, and then I got on the wrong bus, so I had to pay $2.90 for a train pass to get back to where I need to be. And then I did and was able to tap my card the next day, since the pass I got was only for 24 hours. I was able to tap my card on the bus for $2.67 to get to Brussels city center to roam around for the day, and then going back to the airport was $12.99 for the train that I used. And then there's a $3.48 charge on there, and I honestly can't tell you what the fuck that was. And I think it was just coffee. So I put it under transportation because at some point I'm like, it has to be transportation, but I'm not sure what it was. I'm not sure at all what that $3.48 was, but it's there. And it looked like it was for transportation. So in total for Brussels, we spent $32.47 on transportation. Like I told you before, I used Ryanair to get to Brussels, and I only want to bring a personal bag that I thought was saving money, but it wasn't. But I also had a carry-on that I didn't have to pay for United. That carry-on I put in storage at my original hostel because I didn't want to pay for priority ticket to have the carry-on and then just roam around Brussels with it. And I'm happy that I didn't do that because Brussels is nothing but cobblestone, and I would have been it was not going to be a good look. So I'm happy that I didn't bring my bag. I used my original hostel storage resource to do that, and that was $8 per day. So when I left, and then in the day I came back, I had to pay for those 2 days, and it was €8 per day, and that totaled $18.54. And then lastly, I told you this before, it was $112 for surprise cost, and that was the cost for checking for a priority ticket for Ryanair and checking my bag going back to Dublin. And I added my hostel mate's tarot reading to that surprise cost as well of $9. So the surprise cost was $112.79. And those are all the things that I paid for on my trip, literally down to the dime. And then until I got back, I literally tracked everything. So with each day of food and activities, with the tickets there and back, with the concert ticket that's getting refunded within 30 days, with the surprise cost, the foreign exchange rate cost, storage cost, the bus passes, everything that I paid for on the trip was $1,416.90. And I spent all of this over the course of 3 weeks of getting to the trip and then actually going on the trip. Most of it was roaming around. Now, there are so many different things that you can do when you're abroad, like group tours that I just didn't do because I didn't have the time for or the energy for. This was definitely just a trip for me, and I wanted to fit as much as I could in for me, and some of the tours just wasn't going to do this. So this also isn't a normal, I wouldn't say normal, this is just how I wanted to travel, basically. When I was in Ireland 2019, I did a bunch of group tours to Galloway or Kerry? Sure. And so I was able to kind of move out of Dublin a little bit, and that was nice, but this trip wasn't that, and that's fine. All I wanted to do was tell you how much I spent on my trip and the mistakes that I made to help you not make those mistakes. And I probably would have only spent $1,100 if I did some things differently, and if I researched a lot more on some things and was really was more strict with what I did. But that's in the past, and that money is spent already. I can't get it back, but I enjoyed myself so much. And that is the totality of our trip to Dublin and Brussels. And I hope this helped you decide whether or not you want to travel, give you different resources, and give you different resources on how to travel. If you have any questions and things that I didn't go over in a thorough way that you want to know about, please put them in the comments down below. I probably have so much more to tell and share and give. I just wanted to do it in the most concise way possible. And this is how I did it. So again, if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments down below. I love you. I am grateful for you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.